Alright, this one's a 2007 Honda Civic SI, and the problem with this one is an electrical complaint. So, start this one up. Sounds like crap when you start it up. Customers complain of all these lights being on: VSA, steering, check engine, ABS, brake, and also, let's see, I don't know if you can see that on video. Yeah. So the temperature gauge is on the left, the fuel gauge is on the right, but the temperature gauge you can't see. Let me go ahead and find some shade so I can get a better picture for you. But yeah, this might either be a simple electrical check, a simple problem, maybe like a blown fuse or something, or it might just get a little bit complicated and have more than one issue. Also, one thing I noticed is, let me see if I can get a good picture for you here, is when you start driving, it's kind of hard to do, but look, the speedometer stays at 0. Focus. It's hard to shift and record, and I need like 5 hands here. So let's shift right here. Speedometer stays at 0. So that's another problem. Might be related. Might be one big problem. Shift. Okay. Yeah, there you go. Okay, so there you go. You can see the fuel gauge on the right. The temperature gauge is on the left, but it's not lighting up. Also, one thing I noticed is when you turn the key off, as soon as you turn the key on, you see the temperature gauge, and then it goes out. The fuel gauge stays on though. So let's do that again. See that? Boom, it goes out. So do we have one big electrical issue? With the check engine light being on and having all these other lights on, the first thing I'm gonna do is hook up my scanner, and I'm gonna do a quick code scan of all the modules. Since all these lights are on, I want to see if there's anything in there. So anyways, right now I'm thinking check engine light. Hopefully that'll give us a code and guide us in some sort of direction, maybe related to the speedometer. That doesn't explain why the temperature gauge will be out though. Hopefully there's something there. Maybe some ABS codes, some brake related codes. Not sure. Also, another thing that I did notice is that the radio is asking for a code. That happens when you disconnect the battery. So one thing I want to do is check to see if it has a new battery. Alright, so it has a fairly new battery. This is from 2017, but it's a AAA battery. No big deal. Let's see. Okay, that terminal is right there's loose. I always check for loose terminals. That'll give you some weird electrical issues. So that one's loose. We're gonna tighten that up and see if anything changes. Also, looks like you got a brand new alternator there. So maybe they hooked up the battery and wired it backwards, and maybe that blew like a main fuse or something. So we're gonna take a look at it. Let's go back in there and see the scanner. No codes present, but there's only the airbag and the gauge module. That's weird. One thing I just noticed too is that the RPMs aren't working. So nothing here works. Nothing. 0 speed, 0 RPM, check engine light, VSA, steering, ABS, and brake. We got a lot of issues here. Or maybe we just got one issue. We'll find out right now. I'm taking this back and I'm gonna get some diagrams, and then I'm going straight to the engine control module, which I'm pretty sure I won't be able to communicate with it, but it's worth a shot. Right now what I'm gonna do is leave the key on, and I'm actually gonna go under the hood and I'm gonna go check the fuses over there, because we've got a fuse box down there that we can check, and we got another one down here, but I'm gonna start up there to make sure there's no like main fuse or main anything blown. So let me see if I can set you up here so I can check all the fuses. Guess I'm gonna have to hold it. Alright, so I'm gonna check all of them. Let's make sure that none of them are blown. I'm just going to both terminals of the fuse, make sure the light stays on. If one of them shows that the light's not lighting on, then I'll check what that is, and then we'll go from there. So all these so far, so good. Oh.
haciendo, güey?
Finding a short or an electrical problem of some kind.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it should be a good one. All the lights are on the dash.
All the lights on?
Yeah. Let's go inside. I'm down here on the bottom of this left kick wheel chingadera. There's actually a fuse panel down here, and all the fuses check good. I couldn't focus you on there, but the one that does not check good, see if you can see that. It's just 28, fuse 28. It's a 15 amp fuse. Now, according to the diagram, or this shit, fuse 28 is for the rear accessory power socket. So I'm gonna change that fuse, and I'm gonna go check that power socket and make sure it's not short or anything. But that doesn't explain to me why all these lights are on the dash. So let me go do that, and I'll bring you guys back right now. All right, so here's that 15 amp fuse that was blown in the fuse box under here. That one right there, this is for the rear power outlet, and that one is right up in here, down there. So that's the front power outlet. This one in here will be your rear power outlet, and everything looks good in there. So I went ahead and put a new fuse in there, and we still got the same thing. All the lights are on the dash, and when I go to code scan, it scans everything, but when I go to engine, I don't have any communication. Like, for example, if I want to read codes on this, I got no communication. Alright, now what I'm tripping on right here is when I go to gauge, right, because that's the customer's concern, is all his gauges don't work, and I go to codes only. Go to gauge codes right here, and I got all these codes right here. It says gauge control module lost communication with the PCM, lost communication at PCM, gauge control module, FCAN communication error, gauge control module lost communication with the electronic power steering unit. So all these are gauge control module lost communication. So one of the things we can do is go to functional test. And let me get this down so you can see what I'm about to do. Is I'm pretty much gonna run a test on the instrument cluster. So go ahead and read this, pause it if you want, but I'm just gonna hit yes. And that activates everything on the dash. That's just to make sure the gauges work. So I don't know if you remember earlier when we were driving, we didn't have any RPM, but now we do. You can see that the gauge is working. So where do we go from here? Now obviously, communication codes is not something that I'm too familiar with. I'm gonna go ahead and get a diagram of all the modules to see how they communicate, and I'll probably check communication lines to those modules, especially the gauge control module, because you can see right now, you can see the fuel gauge, but you don't see the temperature gauge. But during the test, it was activated. So all these lights are on. I can't communicate with the check engine, with the engine. I can't communicate with the ABS either. So I know that this is probably not, there's probably no check engine light codes or ABS codes, but those lights are on because there's something up with the dash. So see, no communication with ABS. So I'm gonna stop right here. I'm gonna go get some diagrams, and then I'll come back and we'll be checking communication lines and see where I go from there. But we'll try to figure this one out.